Good afternoon, Father and fellow parishioners of Corpus Christi Parish. My name is Gabriel Koch, and I'm a second-year student at UBC studying sciences. I'm also a CCYM core team leader and an altar server here at the parish. Before the World Youth Day trip, I didn't feel like I was serving the youth as a leader of as a core team leader of CCYM and an altar server. I had this mindset that I was doing this all for a sort of self-preservation. I would do good things because I felt it was the right thing to do, and I thought that by doing good things, that would lead me to heaven. As a leader, I created this criteria for myself. And at every youth event, I would check off these boxes in my criteria, and I thought that would make me a good youth leader, but it made it feel like a job. It didn't really fit the role of a leader and serving the youth. As an altar server, I love serving Mass, but teaching the younger youth how to serve Mass was more of a job, and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like I was serving the youth properly. But this self-preservation mindset was what I thought was going to lead me to heaven, so I went through with it anyways. This was all until I went to World Youth Day. And on the trip to World Youth Day, on the plane, I got to go to confession with Father Richard. And there, I got some really good insights. And one of the main insights that I got was a definition of love. To make oneself a gift to another. To make oneself a lover, a gift to another person, the beloved. When we got to Tavira, which is in south of Portugal, we got to do Holy Hour. And during Holy Hour, I got to reflect on this quote, to make oneself a gift to another. And I understood this as giving my time, giving my energy, giving of myself in any way I can, even when I was tired, and whatever I could for other people. So my goal over this trip became to love others in this way, of giving of myself whatever I could. One night in Tavira, I was really tired after a long day and I wanted to unwind. So I went across the gym to get my phone. But on the way there, I saw one of my fellow pilgrims. He was the leader of our Corpus Christi group. His name was Neil. And I saw that he was awake and he was also on his phone. So I wanted to go and give him some of my time, and so I went to say hi. And I actually had this really beautiful 3-hour conversation with him that kept us up till 3 a.m. But it was really good, and I'm very happy that I was able to do it, because one of the main takeaways that I got from our talk was that we are all God's instruments. The next day I went to Holy Hour and I reflected on this. We are all God's instruments. And I came up with this sort of image in my head, which is that it describes God's plan for us. The image is an orchestra where we are the musical instruments, and God is the composer. The Holy Spirit is the sheet music, and the notes on the sheet music is God's plan for us. So just as the musicians play notes on a sheet music, we are all called to do God's will through the Holy Spirit. When the notes are played correctly, it creates a beautiful song which turns into something pleasant for us to hear. Likewise, when we do God's will throughout the day, it creates a beautiful song that sings of God's glory to each other. And this helped me understand that by loving in this way, it's part of God's will and part of God's plan for me. Another time that I was able to give of myself was during the return from the opening Mass. So at the opening Mass, there were a lot of people, and the way for us to get back to our hotel was by train. And so when we were boarding the train, there were a lot of people pushing and shoving, and one of the pilgrims actually fell in between the train and the platform. So her leg got stuck in between there, and fortunately she didn't get any fractures or anything broken, but at the time we didn't know. One of the leaders was with us, and he knew first aid, and so he was able to take care of her on the train. But then off the train, we didn't know if anything was damaged, so me and another pilgrim volunteered our time and energy to carry her back to the hotel because we didn't want her to get hurt. Another time that I was able to love by giving of myself was during the day of the vigil mass, the day before actually. We arrived early in the afternoon to this really rough ground. It was really dry and the ground was really compact. And a problem arose instantaneously, and that was a flooding problem. There are drinking taps along the side of each area where we sleep, and because the ground is so rough and so dry, all the water would just flood around the area. And some people were to sleep beside these drinking taps. And the water from the drinking taps, because it had nowhere to go, would flow into where these people were sleeping. So me and a couple of other pilgrims from Corpus Christi, we decided to go help these people to make mud walls and whatever we could to stop the water from flooding into where the people were sleeping. And it took us about 8 hours to make a mud wall that would stop the water from going to where the people were sleeping. Fortunately, it held till the next morning, and people were able to sleep without having to move or getting wet. Returning to Vancouver, I was reflecting on my trip of World Youth Day, and I remembered the 10-year vision plan and the values of that. And I thought that during this trip, I was really able to live out 2 of them. The first one is being rooted in tradition. I got to go to confession and daily holy hour because of Father Richard. And because I was able to root myself in tradition in this way, I was able to become an engaged disciple in where I was able to help others in whatever way I could during the trip. Moving forward, I want to continue to do this. And my mom gave me this last night, actually. She told me that the amount that I love my neighbor is the amount that I love God. If I love my neighbor this much, then I love God this much. If I love my neighbor this much, then I love God this much as well. So I want to continue to love others in this way of giving myself so that I can also love God.